We know that daughters of mothers who have PCOS have an 8 times higher likelihood of having PCOS. Now, research is a little fuzzy as far as like the male connection. Like, for example, yeah, like anyway, so we're still kind of sussing that out, but we do know that there is a genetic link. As far as like the exact extent, I think that's
Yeah.
still being kind of worked on, and hopefully we see more clarity there soon. But yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when you say that 8 times more likely, that's massive. How much of that do you think is lifestyle, right? Is diet related, exercise related, diabetes, obesity? I mean, how much of this do you think is lifestyle, which is such an unfortunate reality, right? Of families and generations. I'm just curious about that too.
I know it's like that never ending nature versus nurture debate,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I definitely, we know that environment plays a role. We
Yep.
know there's a lot of research about endocrine disrupting chemicals
Yeah.
and how, for example, women with PCOS have higher levels of BPA in
Yeah.
our blood when we run
Yep.
testing. So yeah, there definitely, we can't deny that connection. And I think that would be a whole nother conversation when it comes to infertility as well.
Yeah.
But also, let's talk about the weight component because
Yep.
that definitely plays a role. Not to
Mhm.
focus on that exclusively, but we know that
Mhm.
it plays a role. We know that we can, in many women, restore ovulation in women that were previously anovulatory when
Mhm.
we have moderate amounts of weight loss.
Mhm.
So, and a lot of it is tied to that insulin resistance connection, right?
Yeah.
When we drop down our body weight to a weight that is more supportive of healthy
Yeah.
blood sugars, it's kind of like they work in tandem. Insulin
Mm.
resistance levels decline. We lower our risk for pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes, and we start
Mhm.
ovulating again as a
Mhm.
result. So it's not to not think of it as like, you know, pounds of fat shed equal health. It's not always
Yeah.
how I want to think about
Yeah.
it. I want to think about it in the fact of in the light, when it comes to insulin resistance and how much that can
Mhm.
play a role in overall hormone health and well-being. So we do have that evidence, and we are living in larger body sizes now than we
Yeah.
were in the past. Like that is
Yeah.
fact, that is known. And
Mhm.
it's not like there are so many different, we're talking about the word fat, like we love like fat, like we love fat when it comes to, nice
Good
juicy
food.
thighs and a nice
Yeah.
butt. Like we love that.
Yep.
But it's the fat that's packed around our organs, right? It's the
Yeah.
visceral fat that we have an
Yeah.
increase in now. So that's the fat that we don't like to see, that we want to help reduce, because that's what leads to, metabolic and all kinds of health issues. So
Mhm.
I think there's quite a bit more of that in our day and age than there was in the past. And I can't help but see that connection when it comes to like, I think there's many reasons why we're seeing higher rates of PCOS. I think we're being, studied more finally. I think we're
Mhm.
talking about it more. I think more people are seeking testing. So that plays a
Yep.
huge role in how much diagnosing there is going
Yep.
on. And then I do see that connection when it comes to environmental toxins, and
Mhm.
also the fact that we have more visceral fat now around our organs and our bodies
Yeah.
than we did in previous generations. So I think it's all of these things.
It really is true that it's an
Yeah.
epidemic what we're seeing with children right now. And that's
Yes.
really a big issue.
Hmm.
And so when you
Right.
look at young children that are unfortunately carrying more visceral fat, more unhealthy fat than they ever
Yes.
have,
Right.
there's this correlation to not just PCOS, but obviously heart disease, right? We're
Yes.
seeing these
Yeah.
children, young men and young women that are in their
Hmm.
teen years and high school with more heart
Hmm.
disease and heart issues than ever before. And so
Yeah. Hmm.
for someone that hasn't ever really understood insulin resistance, what is it? I mean, this
Hmm.
is so important. Obviously, as a dietitian, we're going to talk about this in
Yes.
food in just a few minutes here.
Hmm.
But just for baseline, you're hearing
Yeah.
a word like insulin resistance and you're not diabetic or you don't know that you're diabetic. How should we think about insulin? What is it?
Hmm.
And why
Hmm.
is it so important? Kind of what role does it play in our bodies?
Yeah, so I know insulin resistance is a term that I toss around a lot. Insulin kind of acts like the key to unlock glucose in our cells. So it
Hmm.
helps glucose get into the cells. So what happens is when we have an overload of, a lot of processed foods, and I'm going to use that term lightly, but
Yep.
processed foods. We think about like a lot of, restaurant food, takeout food, DoorDash
Yep.
delivery, fast food, all this convenience food that we eat now. When we're overdoing it on those foods, sugar, Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, these
Yeah.
drinks that have 60 grams of sugar in a
Yeah.
medium drink, and we have no idea we're consuming that.
Yes.
Sodas, all these types of things, energy drinks, there's an overload and your body stops responding to insulin effectively. So we have
Mhm.
insulin resistance, and that's what leads to prediabetes and diabetes. So yeah, when I say insulin resistance and blood sugar, even if
Mm.
you don't have classically defined or diagnosed insulin resistance, or you're not pre-diabetic, blood sugar balance is actually paramount when it comes to
Yeah.
hormone health. So for
Yep.
women with PCOS, when our blood sugar is dysregulated, it sends messages down to our ovaries to pump out more testosterone. And
Mm.
that can cause all these symptoms that we talked about. So there's a
Mhm.
direct connection between how and what we're eating and how our PCOS is showing up for us.